It started like any other quiet suburban story: birds singing, sprinklers ticking, and a new homeowner finally settling into his dream life. Daniel Harper had just moved into his perfect home on Willow Creek Lane, a wide corner lot surrounded by tall maples and soft evening sunlight. After years of renting tiny apartments, this felt like peace. He could finally breathe, garden, and maybe someday build that backyard pool he'd always dreamed of. For a few weeks, everything seemed normal. He met polite neighbors, waved at joggers, and spent weekends trimming the hedges. But every neighborhood, no matter how peaceful, has that one person, the one who believes everyone else's life is their business. Next door lived her, Karen Miller. Karen was the self-appointed guardian of Willow Creek. She wasn't just a neighbor, she was the neighborhood's watchtower. She knew who parked where, whose grass grew an inch too long, and who dared to leave their trash cans visible for more than 5 minutes. She wore her years of residency like a badge of power. Her yard was flawless, her rules stricter than the HOA's, and her tolerance for others' imperfections, non-existent. At first, Daniel ignored her. She made harmless comments: "Your truck looks big for the driveway," or "The color of your shed isn't HOA approved, I think." He smiled, nodded, and carried on. But the calm wouldn't last. One day, Daniel came home from work to find construction materials stacked along their property line: wooden posts, planks, and a bag of concrete. He assumed Karen was repairing her old fence. No big deal. But a few days later, something didn't add up. The new fence was going up inside his property, not by inches but by feet. Curious and concerned, Daniel grabbed the original survey map that came with the house. His suspicions were right. Karen's new fence cut nearly 5 feet into his yard, swallowing a long strip of land that belonged to him. At first, he thought it was an innocent mistake. He walked over, calmly explained what the survey showed. Karen's response was curt. She claimed her plans and neighborhood blueprints proved otherwise. Then, with a condescending smile, she said she'd check into it. But she didn't check. Instead, she finished the fence, taller, whiter, and prouder than before. It stretched from one end of the property to the other like a wall of arrogance. She even added hanging flower pots and a new mailbox near the part she'd stolen. Daniel couldn't believe it. His beautiful open yard now looked smaller, confined, and awkwardly boxed in by Karen's greed. He reached out to the city's zoning office and ordered a new land survey. When the results came back, the evidence was crystal clear. Karen's fence stood 5 feet into his property. He could sue, of course. But court battles were costly, slow, and ugly. The legal system could take months, maybe even years. And Karen, with her smug confidence and deep pockets, would probably enjoy every minute of the fight. So Daniel did what he did best. He stayed quiet. But silence doesn't always mean surrender. Karen, misreading his calm as defeat, grew bolder. She bragged to other neighbors that she'd fixed her boundary line and helped him by creating a cleaner division. She hosted backyard gatherings, sipping lemonade just beyond her stolen fence line as if to flaunt her victory. Daniel heard the whispers. He saw the smirks. But he said nothing. Instead, he started making plans. That summer, Daniel contacted a construction company. Not for a fence, but for something much bigger. He finally decided to build the pool he'd always wanted. The idea had always been a dream. Now, it was also a strategy. He submitted his designs, attached the survey map, and made sure the new construction would align perfectly with the true property line. When the heavy machinery rolled in, Karen's curiosity turned into panic. She appeared at her window, at her yard, even walked out pretending to check on noise levels. Every day, she'd stand by the fence, squinting, trying to understand what Daniel was building. The trucks poured concrete, the builders dug deep trenches, and Karen's confusion grew. Soon, the shape began to take form, a large, elegant in-ground pool stretching across most of Daniel's backyard. And the design? Perfectly legal, perfectly aligned, and perfectly surrounding her stolen fence on 3 sides. When the project was complete, the sight was breathtaking and humiliating. Karen's pristine white fence now stood awkwardly jutting into the sparkling blue water of Daniel's pool. It looked like a misplaced island in the middle of paradise. Her victory had become an eyesore, a monument to her own greed. Daniel installed underwater LED lights that illuminated the pool at night, making the fence glow like a spotlighted sculpture. Every evening, as the sun went down, the reflection of that fence shimmered in the water, visible from every window of Karen's house. It wasn't vandalism. It wasn't revenge in the illegal sense. It was poetic justice, cold, clever, and perfectly within his rights. The neighborhood noticed. People laughed quietly as they passed by. Some took photos. Others whispered that Karen had finally met her match. Even the HOA, which she so often bragged about representing, stayed silent, perhaps enjoying the irony. But Karen didn't. She fumed. Her pride cracked. She demanded Daniel remove the pool's edge that came too close to her fence, but the survey proved he hadn't crossed a single inch of her property. When she called the city, inspectors came, checked the documents and left, impressed by Daniel's precision. Weeks passed, and Karen's frustration turned desperate. She tried to sell her house, but potential buyers couldn't ignore the ridiculous fence sticking into someone else's pool. It had become infamous, a neighborhood joke, a symbol of karma served cold. Meanwhile, Daniel's backyard became a haven. Friends came over for barbecues and late-night swims. The blue water shimmered under string lights, and laughter filled the air. Everyone admired how cleanly the pool wrapped around that absurd fence. It was almost beautiful, in a twisted way. As for Karen, she eventually did what no one expected: she moved out. Whether it was embarrassment, resentment, or the endless reminders of her own mistake, no one knew. But one morning, a moving truck pulled up, and by sunset, she was gone. Daniel watched quietly from his porch as the truck drove away. There was no triumph in his eyes, only calm satisfaction. He hadn't shouted, sued, or fought. He'd simply turned her arrogance into her downfall, one concrete pour at a time. A few months later, the new neighbors moved in, a friendly couple who laughed when they first saw the pool's design. They asked about the story, and Daniel told it with a small grin. They kept the fence, calling it the Island of Karma, and hung fairy lights across it. Over time, it became a neighborhood legend, the tale of the woman who tried to steal a few feet of land and ended up losing everything. And every summer evening, as the golden light danced across the water, Daniel would sit back on his patio chair, sip his drink, and smile faintly at the reflection in the pool, the fence that once represented injustice now gleaming as a reminder. Sometimes, you don't need to fight your enemies. You just need to let them build their own walls, and then build something beautiful around them.